Hey, how you doing? Thanks for tuning in and making it work. I'm Jimmy if you're new here. I make a lot of day in the shop videos, a lot of project truck videos, and occasionally an opinion video. I also try to make videos that keep the public informed, let them know what's going on behind the scenes, and how to go about best having their vehicle serviced properly, efficiently, and cost effectively. This video, we're going to talk about the different shops that you might encounter when you go to have your car serviced. If you want to learn what to look for and what to avoid, stay tuned. Alright guys, there's basically three different kinds of shops that you're going to encounter when you're looking to have your vehicle serviced. The one kind of shop is a tire store, coupon store, or national chain usually. And what they're going to do is they're going to take your concern. They're going to have a whole team worth of guys at different skill levels like every shop does. They're going to take a look at your car. They're going to see what they can do to fix your problem and to make money, and go down a long list of possible problems you might have. Try to see what else they can sell you. There's nothing wrong with selling you stuff that your car needs. The problem is when they sell you stuff your car doesn't need. And it's really hard to differentiate between the two. And the only way to really be sure is to know a little bit about your car yourself, a little bit about mechanical things, or to get a second opinion, possibly a third opinion, which it's really not, it's time consuming. It's not cost effective unless you have a big estimate. If someone gives you a $2,000 or $3,000 estimate, then it's cost effective to go get another estimate, maybe a second or third estimate, because thousands of dollars, I mean, most people don't make that. You have to work a couple of weeks to make that kind of money, most people. So it all depends on your dollar versus time ratio. If you got tons of money and no time, then maybe all bets are off and you get that job done. You got a national warranty. At least they'll stand behind their work if you do have a problem. You're going to get a whole bunch of new stuff done to your car. It'll be like brand new when you're done. That's something to think about. The third type of shop, I'm going to jump over to second. The second one is going to end up being my preferred shop that I'd like to see you bring in your vehicles to. The third type of shop is the shop that is a little bit overwhelmed, working as cheap as possible. They're taking in anything and everything they can. Probably not terribly good at what they do. They have lower end mechanics that aren't paid very well, aren't very experienced, or just don't have a lot of abilities. So they'll tend to work for less money, and the shop will be all over that. They'll pay them less money. But the shop will also give really big discounted rates. Try to get people in the doors. It almost seem like it's too good to be true. Things are too cheap. But what happens in those shops is they're either not doing the repairs at all, they're doing repairs incorrectly, they're overlooking things that could be safety-wise, could be just maintenance, could hurt your gas mileage and things like that. So they're not giving you the best service is the bottom line. They're basically trying to stay in business and fixing your car if they happen to be able to pull it off. There's way too many shops like that, and that's one of the problems in our industry. That's where the reputation of mechanics comes into play, shop 1 and shop 3. Although the mechanics have nothing to do with how competent the shop is and how the end result of your repair is, if you really think about it, because the shop is well aware of the talent they have on staff, how those guys tend to sell work, how they tend to perform their work, and the kind of quality their repairs are going to net for the shop and for the customer. That's one of the really big things I see in our industry. I've been doing this since 1981, so was it 44 years now? I've seen it all. Everything from the little mom and pop shops that don't know how to run a business, and to the gigantic chain stores that could care less about their customers, and they set arbitrary sales goals and all kinds of crazy things that have nothing to do with taking care of you, which is kind of unfortunate. Those two extremes are what you definitely want to avoid. If you bring your car in somewhere and are constantly getting $2,000 and $3,000 estimates, and you know you're taking care of your car pretty well, then you probably need to go somewhere else, or at least get other opinions and see. The only problem is when you go to another shop for that opinion, you tend to just let them do it because you're already there and it's easier. At least for me, if I'm going to a shop I think I trust, they give me an estimate that seems out of line, I go somewhere else for second opinion and they confirm that that estimate was correct, I'm going to go through the trouble of going back to where I originally was, because I was just basically checking to see if I should or not. So I'm not going to hurt them by taking the business somewhere else, because that's kind of rough. When they did the right thing and they weren't wrong about the estimate they gave me, then they deserve to get the work, in my opinion. Even if you have to pay a little bit to the other shop for checking it out. Some shops will charge a half hour to do an inspection and check things on the car, basic things. But the shop you really want to look for is shop number 2, right in between those two shops, which luckily it's probably a decent amount of shops. From my experience where I've worked, it's probably at least like 25% that aren't out to get you and aren't incompetent. So basically, this is a shop that if you've been there a few times, they might remember your name, have a staff that remembers your name or at least your face, and they say, hey, how you doing? I haven't seen you in a while. How you been? What's going on with your car today? What can I do to help you out? They're not having meetings about how to generate sales, how many alignments they did, how many flushes they sold, how many cabin filters and wiper blades and things like that. They're going, how many problems have we had? How many comebacks, how many complaints did we get a bad review online? What happened? What can we do to fix it? I want to take care of customers and clients in the area, build a good reputation. I want people in the neighborhood to know they can come to the shop, they can get their car repaired, and we're going to stand behind the work. That doesn't mean everyone's perfect and no one makes a mistake. It just means that they care enough that they're trying to do their best. They're going to try to do what's right by you, and if something does go wrong, they're going to stand behind it. Especially with parts nowadays, there are so many problems with parts. Defective parts are just running rampant. Where we used to see 1 out of, 25, 1 out of 30, maybe more, parts would be defective and go bad, a day or two after you put it in, or a month after you put it in. But now it's gone quite a bit higher than that, unfortunately. So now it's basically like 1 or 2 out of 5 are going bad, and we'll have to redo that work. It's kind of a shame, but it's the nature of the beast. Everyone is, it's not only automotive industry too, that's another thing people don't realize, but shops 1 and 3, the incompetence and the greed, that's in every industry. It permeates every industry. It doesn't matter what city, state, occupation, male, female, sexual orientation, none of that matters. People need to get it out of their heads that a certain area or a certain group is doing things wrong. It just doesn't work that way. There's way too much gray. There's no black and white. Everyone is scrambling for the almighty dollar and doing whatever they can to make a quick buck. It's almost like pride and workmanship and things like that are out the window. No one cares. They want to get a fat paycheck. They'll worry about it Monday. It's just such a terrible long-term business plan to do that, because word spreads fast, especially with the advent of the internet. You can search shops, you can search individual people, you can search all kinds of things to find out if your odds of being treated well are good or not. And unfortunately, there's a lot of sketchy stuff out there. It's not just auto repair, like I said. It could be the medical industry, insurance industry. Obviously, we know politicians are all crooked. Doesn't matter what party they're in. Just like every other industry, mechanics get blamed for being the crooks. But shops 1 and 3 know very well who works on their staff. Shop 1 with the incompetent staff that works really cheap and will hit the prices you want, you're going to have problems with their work, because the mechanics they have on staff, even if they're trying really hard and doing their best, they either don't have experience, don't have the tools, or are working on things that they shouldn't be touching because they just don't have the capability of doing it, no training, and they're just trying to figure it out. That's really something you want to avoid, because those are the ones that leave oil caps off and drain plugs out and all kinds of things, and you end up with your engine destroyed or whatever other kind of problem. It's just what popped into my head now, but there's thousands of possibilities, things that can go wrong with those shops. If you're shopping for the cheapest price in town, you're probably not going to have a very good experience. Shop 3, on the other hand, knows exactly who they have on staff, knows exactly how things are going to go most days. They might have arbitrary goals that are pie in the sky goals, and everyone is pushing sales and pushing things to to that envelope and probably selling people things they don't need at least 20-30% of the time, because of how you're going to hit those numbers. If you have an arbitrary number to reach, you can't hit that number when Miss Daisy comes in and she has one bald tire and needs wiper blades, and the rest of the car is in great shape because she maintains it. Well, you're not going to hit your numbers if she doesn't get a wheel alignment, a tie rod end, a brake flush, an induction service, a cabin filter, all these other things that you can add. Because what a lot of those shops look for is their average ticket, or average RO it's called. So if their average repair order is $300 or $400, they consider that a bad day. Their average RO is $700, $800, $1,000. That was a great day. That's how those shops think. I've worked at those shops too. That's the one to avoid the most if you care about your pocketbook, because they're going to be selling you all kinds of things you probably don't need. I've even worked at some dealerships that will sell you things you don't need and then not even do it. Think about what kind of a person you have to be to sell some little old lady or little old man, whatever, to sell somebody something they don't need in the first place and then not even do it. That's a person who needs a punch in the face and maybe a little bit of time in prison, as far as I'm concerned. And you make a mistake and you forget something because you got a list of problems on a car that needed a ton of work. That's different. I'm talking about someone who comes in with a 40,000 mile car and gets a $2,500 estimate until they need shocks and struts and stuff, and then someone will wipe the shocks off, send them down the road and not even do the work. I've seen it. It happens. So you really have to be careful. If you feel like you're being sold a used car, you probably are. It's really, it's hard to put it into a way that I can help you understand. When you're being pressured and you're talking to a salesman and they start off with a $5,000 estimate, and after talking a little while they're down to $4,000 and then $3,800 and $3,200 and $2,400. How did your car need $5,000 worth of work when they started? Now when it's all said and done, they get you down to $950, and all of a sudden it's okay. That's a shop that you run from. Don't ever let somebody give you a gigantic estimate and back it down to almost nothing, because that means that all of that stuff they were trying to see if you were a sucker. And that's where the reputation comes from, that mechanics are thieves. 5 times out of 10, the mechanic's not the one selling you stuff you don't need. It's just the salesman making stuff up. Because they'll take a repair order and they'll go, mechanic didn't recommend enough stuff. I'm going to recommend all this extra stuff. And the mechanics, I've worked at shops where they bring you over a RO work order. Yeah, I added this, and this. I'm like, well, all this stuff looked brand new. That's why I didn't put it down. Well, we got to hit our numbers. You really need to be careful. You want to look for that number 2 shop right in between, the Goldilocks shop. The one that's going to take care of your car, look at it thoroughly, inform you of what you actually need. And they may say, hey, you're getting close on this maintenance. If you want to take care of this, and this, or this other thing while you're here, then we can do that for you. And you don't feel like you're being pressured. They're not telling you that, I don't know how you made it here. You're certainly not going to make it home. The shop that doesn't do that to you is the one you want to go to. Now, if they say, man, this isn't safe. I really want to show you something on your car that's bad. And you take you out and they'll show you a tie rod end that's popping in the socket and about to dislocate or something like that. They can show it to you, then you have a peace of mind. Or if you've built a reputation with a shop you can trust. And there's no harm when they do sell you things to go out in the parking lot and look around under the hood. Show me this and show me that, and where's this? Does the fluid doesn't look too new in the power steering? You sold me a power steering flush. The fluid, you take the little fill cap off, put your finger on the fluid, see if it looks nice and clean. There's no harm in double checking that stuff and go, why doesn't it look clean? At least ask. Those kinds of things. Because the shops 1 and 3, the incompetent shop and the overly aggressive shop, they're not there to service your car. They could care less about you. They're there to hit numbers. They're there to make money. And you don't matter. Neither do the employees most of the times in most of those places. The shop that's on the low end and underpaying people and undercharging people, they probably care about their employees at least a little bit, and they're trying to get work and undercutting themselves, not being fair to themselves and their employees to try to get work. They're probably better people than shop number 3, which is going above and beyond to screw everybody, employees, customers, you know, all down the line. The only money that's going to be made is going to go to the shop, and no one else is going to get anything. But they will dangle a carrot and make people think that they might get extra things, which makes it even worse, because then people ramp up the nonsense, and man, I've seen it way too often. So just some of these things I want you to think about. You know, like I said, the number one thing to look for is you get this giant estimate and it keeps jumping down. How did that happen? How did we go from I have to have all this work to now I don't have to have all this work? If they tell you up front, a lot of this is a maintenance item that's not really mandatory, it's just for proper maintenance on your car. If we don't do any of that maintenance, then this estimate is this. That's different. That's not the same thing as, oh my God, your car is in so bad shape, you need like $5,000 worth of work, or you might not even make it home. Well, then by the end of that conversation, if they get down to 900, then you've been lied to. So you really have to remember that stuff. A lot of these salesmen are professionals, and they've literally been trained how to get in your head. Think about that. They train people psychological warfare to sell you stuff. So another thing that's not only in the automotive industry, I'm just asking you, I care a lot about what I do. I care about my customers, my relationships with people. I want to make a good living, and I want to take care of my customer at the same time. And I think that's the best way to do it. If you're trying to do what's right by people, and you're being fair with yourself on your prices, you can't give yourself away either. You have to be fair in both directions. Everyone makes a good living. Everyone gets their car fixed correctly. You keep those relationships alive. The word of mouth spreads. You'll be busier than ever and making more money than you could ever possibly get people going and get things back on the road, making money the honest way. So I just want to make this video to let people know, for a heads up. I've been in this industry for so long now. I've been a master mechanic over 30 years and a mechanic for 44 or so. And I think people need to know what goes on behind the scenes. That vibe you get from your salesman, that's real. So listen to it and make your decision wisely from there. I hope you got something from this video. Maybe you'll torque the like button before you head out. Check out our day in the shop videos. That's our specialty. I take you to work with me and show you things from an honest mechanic's perspective, how things go on a daily basis for us. I hope you appreciate that inside look. More than anything though, I hope I see you in another video, because you're awesome.